After an extremely long break where I attended a few concerts and put some time on the side to catch up to my friends, I feel like I can finally return to content creation. What a great timing, it's about a week after TennoCon and we got so much new content, right guys? Let's be honest. TennoCon was a disappointment for Warframe specifically, primarily because Soulframe got all the hype and attention and Warframe was just a side game that saw 20 minutes of gameplay. And this means that we are in a period of time where we are out of content for a while. But wait, if there is no content, can you simply create content out of nothing? Yes, I can. In this video, we're gonna take a look at some of the best weapons or setups that occurred from the latest update that completely shaked up the meta. But to even understand why it happened, we need to understand what changed. And no, I am not gonna read you the patch notes. I am simply going to tell you the important stuff. Armor was greatly reduced, which in turn buffed every solo element in the game, while DE decided to nerf Viral and buff Corrosive. Armor stripping is not that important anymore and enemies are generally way weaker. Alongside this, Magnetic was buffed, but it's still not worth to mod for it, and Blast became good when paired with some niche synergies, but it's not that great on its own. Hold was buffed by getting a 10th stack that freezes enemies and let them take double critical damage, which only made Primaries way more overpowered, which means that multiplicative condition overload weapons are way stronger. The result of these changes was that Sado's beam weapons skyrocketed in terms of damage alongside any multiplicative CO guns when paired with any primary. Some other changes happened, but they are too specific to go through. So, let's begin. Small disclaimer before I begin, all of the weapons that you will see in this video have some sort of fire rate buff, which is either coming from a Wisp, Arcane Acceleration, Gauss, Harrow, a Hound, something. There is something providing a fire rate buff to these weapons, which is because I am a Wisp main and I mainly use Wisp. But you can easily replicate this fire rate buff. If you don't want to replicate this fire rate buff, that is fine. I will be releasing a video for each and every one of these weapons in the near future once this video goes live. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on your weapon that you want to master with the way you want to build it. Now begin. Stahlta will always be my go-to gun for any mission. This incredibly powerful nuclear launch and machine gun only benefited from these changes, making it an absolute one-shot beast when paired with a primer, allowing it to reach a ridiculous 28 crit multiplier when adding a Riven mod to the mix. Battacor is now an absolute beast of a weapon. It went from being insane to being absolutely busted. Forget the sentient barrage mode, this primary fire provides some of the highest raw DPS this game currently has. No DOTs needed, simply shoot to kill. Tenet Glaxion has insane room clearing capabilities while absolutely one-shotting any demolisher that might be unlucky enough to be touched by its beam. This weapon has some insane output when you get creative with your build, and the best part is that punch through allows the chain of this beam to go through walls and chain to enemies that are behind terrain. So as long as you hit one, you are hitting everyone. The Phantasma went from being a mid-tier weapon to one of the strongest beam weapons in the game. The super high armor in this game meant that unless you had some kind of armor strip, Phantasma was basically unusable. Now with no armor, Phantasma became an absolute beast, building 150 hit procs every mag and melting anything it touches. It used to be the best AoE weapon in the game because of its insane utility, but now also its damage. The Kuva Ogris, just like the Phantasma, gain a ton of damage per shot from the enemy armor nerfs, and will now dish out crazy damage while not losing any of its utility. This weapon does AoE like no other weapon in the entire game. Komorex and Sporothrix are two beastly sniper rifles that put out crazy DPS on an AoE as snipers. Even though the Sporothrix is generally better, Komorex still has amazing DPS, the second highest out of all the snipers right behind its rival. Sporothrix on the other hand is Harrow's strongest weapon with its high crit damage and minuscule crit chance, but it's still disgusting on its own with its volatile variant augment. The Akarius Prime has become our strongest bow by far. Even though bows are usually considered a bad category, this one is different. It has the craziest stats out of any weapon I have seen in the game, and the extra status chance matters a lot now that the hit proc is actually dealing crazy damage. The best part about it is combining it with Varus 2 to get a nutty room clearing weapon. Torid is still one of the strongest weapons in the game, and most people are building it wrong. Instead of going crit and hunter munitions, and pure status build absolutely deletes anyone with 300 toxin procs every second. I will never be a fan of this weapon, but seeing 4-digit toxin procs on enemies in a few seconds is always incredibly satisfying. But by far the biggest surprise of this patch for me, the Quanta Vandal is now bonkers. The electricity procs can speak on its own, and I won't even explain it. 1 million damage over time from 1 second of shooting the enemy is absolutely illegal. Since status beam weapons are stupid strong, it only makes sense that the Kuva Nukor will become an absolute menace after the update. This extremely loved and popular weapon got way stronger and will now absolutely one-shot anything its beam touches, making your hit procs reach maximum overdrive. With cold stacks buffed, primers became crazy strong, and it's only logical that the Kompressa, our strongest primer, would be buffed. 3 bullets from this weapon are generally enough to freeze, confuse, panic, burn, plague, armor strip, and lower the damage from the enemy hit. If that's not enough, it will provide shots that hit that enemy, extra critical chance, double critical damage, and way more base damage. It really doesn't get any better than this. The biggest winner of the secondary weapons, Tenet Plinx, will now hit some crazy damage cap shots when aimed at your enemies while also bleeding them? Wait, what? Yeah, the update completely broke this gun. Somehow 7 modes are enough to one-shot anything in the game, and the last mode allows you to add bleed damage to the damage that is already one-shotting everything in the game. I mean, this is just stupid, I don't know. The new Arcane completely broke this weapon. Ocucor remains our best console room clearing weapon. As long as you get 1 kill, then you don't have to aim, you just shoot, hold down R2 or RB, whatever platform you're on. I don't need to explain anything here, honestly. You get a kill, you get infinite ammo, and then you just shoot and the gun does everything on its own. One of the most buffed weapons this patch was the Hystrix Prime. We went from using Fire Quill only to absolutely destroying with all of the quills. Need priming? Go Cold Quill. You need single target damage? Go Heat Quill. You need anti-shield? Go Toxin Quill. You need AoE? You go Electric Quill. It's insanely versatile and its damage with any quill is skyrocketed. The procs from this weapon do mad damage. Akarius Prime is now a pocket nuke. Even at 0 stacks, you can simply whip it out and clear a room of enemies with ease. There is very few secondaries that can do this, and it's something not a lot of people appreciate. As an AoE secondary, the amount of damage they do rival that of the Sporothrix, and they are quite fun with Mirage to use as well. With the indirect nerf to slash damage after the enemy health was increased by so much, the Glaive Prime is dethroned as the king of melee weapons. I welcome you to our new king, the Cerata. This weapon is crazy, it provides a guaranteed toxin proc every hit and way more damage than the Glaive, not only on your hit but also on the proc itself now after the armor nerfs. One shot anything and everything with one heavy throw, absolute insanity of a weapon. Lesion has returned to its glory, once again becoming the king of E-spam melees, adding electricity, gas and melee influence into any status melee breaks it, but on Lesion it is extreme. Boreal's Contempt rework, melee elementalist, gas and Lesion passive, there is no hope for anyone standing close to whatever it is you're hitting. The only downside of this weapon is that enemies sometimes die too quickly and you lose your stacks. It really is that good. Tenet Livia will give you some nasty heavy attacks. Melee Afflictions pairs perfect into the stance of this weapon and adds some dump bleed damage onto your heavies. The Lesion the Tenet Livia is way better than some other options is simply because the attack is way wider and has more range, while follow through doesn't seem to hurt it as much. The real downside of this arcane in general is that certain units like Acolytes, Demolists, and most importantly Eximus are simply immune to it. Thankfully, the Livia is strong enough to deal with them just fine. Dual Ichor was already a really strong melee, but it seems to only get better as time passes. The toxin traps on the ground now hurt like a truck after the armor changes, and the stance provides a lot of single target damage. A good mix of single target and room clear in one weapon. Zenistar returned to its full glory. Just like the old days, you can let the disc on an area that you know enemies are coming from and it will take care of them on its own. Against Grenier, it's good to go viral hit and watch them burn to death even at level 200, but against Corpus this is probably the best melee you can take. Simply slap electricity, gas and melee influence and you can get some nutty kills per minute. The only problem for this weapon are Eximus units, but if they are in the discs area they will be primed so they can be one-tapped by any of your other guns. Just like the Tenet Livia, Praedos became super strong with a heavy attack build. Their evolutions and stuns synergized with melee afflictions perfectly, and now Praedos found itself being a very strong get out of jail weapon when things get rough. The extra mobility combined with insane single target damage have made this my preferred melee weapon choice this update. Xoris got buffed the same way Cerata did. Electricity procs now do a ton of damage. Not to forget Chroma with this weapon is one of the most broken synergies in the entire game. A ton of damage in a huge AoE with zero drawbacks. Truly one of the setups of all time. Ember and Frost after the recent buffs are back in business, with Ember not only getting a really good skin but having the greatest gun buffing kit in the game right after Saryn. Heat damage is completely unmatched as an element now, and Ember buffs herself so much while armor stripping and making herself unkillable that it's honestly hard to pass on her now. If you haven't given gun buff Ember a shot, please do, it's absolutely insane. Frost on the other hand has so many crit weapon buff ups now that he can ignore using crit mods at all and still red crit. This man simply gets buffs after buffs and people still will avoid him like the plague. And so did I. This isn't even my footage actually. Thank you Umbral Nova for providing me with these, even though I never asked you to begin with. Heavily appreciated, by the way. Saryn absolutely breaks Blast. No surprises here, it's this classic meme. Wow, new amazing insert gun here build that you must try. Insane kills per minute. And the dude in the video uses Saryn. Surely the weapon is the one doing the work, right? I hate Saryn for the simple reason that she makes anything viable. And Blast is no different. But she also reprocs the toxin from Blast onto her toxin last, and it just creates an infinite loop that gives you even more AoE. Some pretty insane stuff happening there. Dagath with her new augment is literally invincible. If you hear anyone saying this augment is garbage, they are out of their mind. Any of the room clearing weapons we mentioned paired with her will essentially gain triple damage and extra true damage from Doom proccing all the time. And if that's not enough, you can retake the spectral form very quickly, which practically makes you invincible forever. And last but not least, Gyre's electricity procs are through the roof. I don't even have a good Gyre build to go with, but you can pair her with any good electricity weapon and your damage skyrockets. She is the one who benefited the most from these changes by far. So, these are, so far, the things that I have found out were buffed the most by the Jade Shadows update. I am saying so far because there is honestly a lot of changes here and I don't own every gun in the game to test it individually. There is a pretty simple premise to what got buffed and what got nerfed by the changes as mentioned in the start of the video, and knowing this you can experiment yourself with other weapons. Maybe you have already, so if you know any other weapon that was buffed from the Jade Shadows and is now a hidden gem, leave it in the comments below. I try to read each and every one of them and I am open-minded to try some of them if they are interesting enough to me. Also remember, all these guns are getting their own videos and there will be generally a lot more activity in the channel from now on. I am sorry that I was away, but sometimes content drought really gets to me. For now, I am happy to be back and in fact, I have a week off, which means I have time to do something crazy, like a 24-hour subathon. That's right, tomorrow, Sunday 4th of August, at 2 PM, I will start a 24-hour subathon. 2 PM EST, I think. Anyways, I'll be playing a variety of games from Warframe to League to shooters, horror games, racing games, you name it, anything and everything. I will have some goals for people who like to support me and sub or donate to the stream to help increase the timer as much as possible, and I will most likely not sleep through the stream at all. I don't expect the subathon to last more than 30 hours, and it will not be my first rodeo staying awake for that long. So, twitch.tv/Moog, it will be in the description. I really hope to see you there, and as always, thank you very much for watching my video.